Problem-Based Learning and Problem-Solving Theory by Group 4. Problem-Based Learning, or PBL, and Problem-Solving Theory. How do they explain or define learning? Well, learning is defined as a learner's ability to find solutions of problems. Problem solving involves three basic functions. First, the seeking of information. Second, generating new knowledge. And third, making decisions. Problem-based learning, or PBL, is an instructional model that assumes the centrality of problems to learning. From these points, we can conclude that problem-solving theory is the umbrella of which problem-based learning falls under. Both of them have problem-solving as the outcome of learning. In problem-based learning, students use triggers from the problem case or scenario to define their learning objectives. Wood, 2003. In addition, PBL differs from more traditional approaches to teaching in that participants are encouraged to use self-directed learning skills and placing emphasis on a person's ability to seek out and assimilate relevant information to tackle a problem at hand. To analyze a given clinical scenario, formulate and prioritize key learning objectives within that scenario, and then collect whatever additional information they think will be needed to address those objectives. In other words, in order to achieve the goals of learning, which is finding possible solutions, students are handed a problem to solve. Therefore, student-centered learning is the emphasis of this model, and medical schools and engineering are among the professionals that use problem-solving skills. How does this theory explain or define the role of the instructors? Well, Kilroy in 2004 states that teachers act as a facilitator rather than a teacher. As a facilitator, teachers use their expertise not primarily to transmit facts, but to provide encouragement and guidance as the students tackle the problems they have identified. As facilitators, teachers have the responsibility to provide assistance and suggest useful resources and provide feedback to the students. Teachers also serve as model problem solvers by asking questions along with the students. However, a fine line should be emphasized when teachers play a role as a model, since the idea of learning is student-centered, in which students are the ones who solve the problems. What is the role of the learning environment? The instructor can really manipulate the problem space to best facilitate learning. By doing this, the instructor impacts the difficulty level of the problem by adjusting the structure of the question and the breadth of the problem space. Well-defined problems, or problems with clear guidelines and fixed answers, require less knowledge and perseverance to solve. Examples of these well-defined problems might be algorithms or plugging numbers into formulas. Ill-defined problems, or problems with vague guidelines and no clear answers, are more complex and require more effort and knowledge to solve. These are things like dilemmas and arguments and with less clear and concise answers. What is the role of previous knowledge? The role of background knowledge takes priority in problem-based learning. Adequate background knowledge is essential in problem solving. Instructors need to assess student background knowledge to determine the difficulty level of the problem they present to the students. Problems need to be challenging enough to students, however, also appropriate to the students' cognitive abilities. In other words, the problems teachers present need to be scaffolded to the students correctly. Problems should also be relevant to students' interests as well as to their potential possible careers. How is learning measured? Well, what to teach, how to teach, where to teach, and when to teach are all questions that should be addressed when teaching problem solving. How well students master cognitive processes in problem solving is one way that learning can be measured. What are some examples of other theories that can be classified under these or are related to problem-based learning? Well, theories that are related to PBL and problem solving include the following: constructive thinking, Gestalt theory, as well as information processing approach to learning. Who are the dominant theorists in these areas? Problem solving is derived from progress in both the behaviorist and cognitive theorists. So from the behaviorists, we have ideas from Clark Hull, and from cognitivists, we have Gagne, George Polya, Graham Wallace, and from problem-based learning, we have David Jonasson. What major instructional strategies or instructional models are associated with problem-solving theory? Well, general problem solver has two sets of thinking processes associated with the problem-solving process. A, understanding these processes, and B, search processes. Ideal problem solver stands for identify problem, define problem, explore strategies, act on strategies, look back, and evaluate. These are strategies that teachers can use to instruct using problem-based learning. What are contributions of the theory for instructional design? Well, design problems are the most complex and ill-structured problems. So these have vaguely defined goals, maybe multiple solutions, and limitations due to background knowledge. It's also very content specific. There's also methods for solving these problems, including the ideal method for problem solving. And PBL may be too complex and cause negative effect on student learning if it is too complicated and they don't have the proper background knowledge. We had many references for this presentation, and you will find these on this slide here.